when our emotional health is not in balance and our emotions are not released in a safe way, we could end up with a lot of anger, frustration, mental issues, health issues, physical health issues that are all connected to emotional imbalances and the inability to release emotions in a safe way, in a healthy way. Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining me today for this intuitive activation session. This is a conversation heart to heart and consciousness with itself. This body-mind is coming from a non-dual perspective. Non-dual meaning one consciousness that is connecting every single physical and non-physical body, thing, whatever we perceive to be out there in the external. Today I feel guided to speak about emotional release, emotional discharge in a safe way. I had previously made a video about emotional health that was about 6 months ago perhaps, and where I spoke about the importance about emotional balance and emotional health. So feel free to go back and look at that one if you have questions that may not have been answered or come up in this video. Emotional health comes with this physical body. Without physical body, in that sense, we do not have emotions, we do not have thoughts, because there is no brain, no mind, if you so want. It all comes with being physical, being in a physical body. Once you are out of the physical body, you do not have emotions in the sense that we do when we're physical. I hope that makes sense. So emotions and thoughts come with the physical body, and depending on the condition of the physical body, depending on what memories the physical body holds, and so on and so forth. Emotional health influences our overall health. If your emotional health is not balanced, then you will be having mental imbalances, issues, problems, if you so want, and also physical, with the physical body problems, health issues. Yes, so having a balanced emotional health is very important for being in a physical body. And in this day and time where everything is geared towards mental and the mind, emotional health is for the most part being swept under the rug and being ignored. Part of having balanced emotional health, or balanced emotions, or healthy emotions, or whatever you would like to label it, part of it is being able to release emotions in a safe way. Discharge emotions in a safe way, because if emotions are not being processed properly, meaning they're not being looked at, they're being ignored, they're being put on the back burner. Sometimes we have memories of situations that are not very pleasant, and that connects with unpleasant emotions, emotions we would rather not deal with, we would rather not look at. These kind of emotions will get stuck in our system, if you want to call it that, and will sooner or later cause mental, physical, and emotional issues, or even distress, to the point where you could end up with an enormous amount of anxiety and depression. So this video, I would like to go into a little bit more detail on how to safely discharge and release emotions. So as I mentioned in my previous video about emotional health, and I think I just mentioned it again, emotions, in order to properly deal with them, they need to be looked at and acknowledged. Yes, where is this coming from? Why am I feeling this way? Why am I constantly anxious or in fear? Or why am I constantly worried about something? Where is this coming from? It's coming from the mind, the brain. It's coming from whatever you're feeding your mind, your brain. That's where, because again, it starts with the brain, what the brain receives and then processes. The brain is like an organic supercomputer. Yes? And whatever you feed a computer is what the computer can use and process. Yes? And if you feed the computer all kinds of junks, what you get out of is junks. So if you're feeding your brain a lot of junk, then that's what you're getting out of. You're getting a lot of anxiety, stress, and so on and so forth. Yes? So whatever diet you're feeding to your receiver, your brain, will then determine your emotional and physical reaction and your energetic output. Yes? So if you're feeding your mind, your brain, a lot of junks, it can cause thoughts of anxiety, stress, and so on and so forth. Yes, and that then determines your emotional health, because the emotional health is directly linked to the mental health. Okay, now emotional issues can come out as a form of anxiety, stress, fear, or also anger and resentment. Body minds who have anger issues, resentment issues, who have problems dealing with other body minds, usually have problems dealing with themselves and their own emotions. Yes? Violence in any way, shape, or form is a sign of repressed emotions that have not been dealt with properly, and then look for a way out, basically. So if emotions are not released, discharged in a safe way, they will eventually come out in an unsafe way. So you can imagine a bottle of pop, of Coke or Sprite, whatever, that has carbonation in it, and you shake that bottle, and if you shake that bottle hard enough, and if you do not open the lid, eventually that bottle will implode. And that's exactly what happens to body minds who have repressed emotions, who for one way, reason or another do not know, have not been taught, are not capable and able to deal with their own emotions, repressed emotions, which are often emotions, painful emotions from pain, trauma, situations that were hurtful. If they don't release these in a safe way, it will eventually erupt like a bottle with carbonation that implodes. Yes, it doesn't explode, it implodes because it comes from the inside out. It's called implosion. Yes? So that same happens with emotions and with body minds who do not know how to safely discharge their emotions. Meaning, it doesn't matter the age. Body minds that hit, that are violent, that yell and scream, that have anger issues, those are all repressed emotions, and it starts very early on in the perceived human timeline. Yes, when little children do not know how to safely express their emotions because they don't have the verbal capability yet to say, I'm sad, I'm angry. Yes, little children will bite, they will hit, they will kick, they will scream, they will have temper tantrums. That doesn't mean this is a bad child. That means this child has not yet learned how to express their emotions and their emotional needs and their other needs. Yes, and the same goes for all age groups. Yes, even adults. There are many adult body minds that do not know how to properly express their emotions, how to safely discharge their emotions, and then they turn to violence. Yes, which could be verbal violence, which could be mentally torturing other body minds. It could be physical violence. Yes, so it could be emotional violence. There are many ways, shape, or form of violence, and they all stem from emotional repression, not being able to deal with it, not being able to safely discharge it. The discharge of emotion, if it's not being dealt with, is usually violence. It comes out in like an implosion, and it turns into violence. Yes, that's why this is so important to look at emotions that are repressed, to deal with them, and to know how to safely discharge emotions. That doesn't mean you have to be happy with all of your emotions. Nobody is. Yes, we have a whole variety of emotions. Yes, that's part of being human. Yes, to experience all this. Not everything is always happy and sunshine, and that's not what we're here for. Okay, but we are not being properly taught to discharge our emotions, to look at them and to acknowledge them and to deal with them. Yes, and so that's why we see a lot of violence out in the perceived external world. Yes, and violence creates more violence, because that will then be received by the brain and create more anxiety and fear and more emotions that are being stuck somewhere. Yes, so violence creates more violence if it's not dealt with properly. Yeah, so you have to really start. A person that is violent is basically somebody who cannot help themselves, and so they need to be helped in a humane way. Yes, they need to be taught how to deal with their own emotions, their own mental issues, and so on and so forth. Yes, this is the day and age where we have all the information at our fingertips, and we're not using it the right way. We're using it to make money, which is the least thing that we should even be worrying about. Yes, because we have so many more issues. Yeah, I know. Everything is easier when you have money. I heard that so many times, and it's not true. It is not true. Because happiness comes from within. It is your perception and perspective that determines your own happiness. You create your own heaven, and you create your own hell. Yes. And as long as we keep blaming and shaming whatever is going on the external, we will not get where we would like to be, to a better world. Yes. Now, I have heard and read body minds people say that emotion stands for energy in motion, which is, in a sense, yes, but everything is energy. So your thoughts are energy too, and we don't call it thoughts in motion. So emotion, in that sense, emotions are feelings, and yes, they're energies that are being produced, if you so want, by the physical body. Because without the physical body, in that sense, we do not have that that amount of emotions. Just like we don't have thoughts, because thoughts come with a physical brain, with a physical body, which constitutes the thoughts, the mind. And I have spoken about this in previous videos. The physical body is a conductor, a receiver, and is a projector for output. So we conduct and receive through the physical senses, meaning smell, taste, touch, hearing, seeing, which then that information goes to our brain and is being processed there. And depending on what kind of information we're feeding our brain will start developing thoughts. Yes, because thoughts come from the brain, from the information that is being put to the brain, meaning mainly the physical senses. And that is very limited. So the information the brain really receives is very limited and often biased through limiting beliefs, often influenced through memories, stories that the brain holds. And so the information that the brain then comes up with after receiving the information through the physical senses is not necessarily what is actually happening. It could be distorted, it could be only half the information, but this part information that the brain receives and then processes will then activate an emotional response, feelings, if you so want. So if you watch a lot of fear porn, a lot of bad news, a lot of let's say movies that are frightening, then that will elicit a emotional response, and your body will react, because the body, the physical reaction comes after the emotion, comes after the thought, after what the brain processes. So the brain processes information, which then turns into thoughts, which then turns into emotions, and then turns into physical reaction. Yes? So if you're feeding your brain a lot of, let's call it fear, a lot of things that cause fear for you, for your body, then your body will be constantly living in fear, will be having fearful reactions, and will be constantly living in fight or flight mode. Yes, it affects your nervous system, and if your nervous system cannot calm down and cannot be soothed, then your nervous system and your whole body is constantly in fight or flight mode, which can cause anger issues, which can cause a lot of frustration. It can cause anxiety, major amounts of anxiety. It can cause depression, and so on and so forth. So it causes mental, emotional, and physical issues. So as I mentioned before, if we have emotional, let's say, issues, problems, just emotions that we don't like to deal with, that we don't like to look at. Let's say we have memories that are painful and we don't want to deal with them. Those emotions that are not being processed meaning they're not being looked at and not being dealt with. When I say to process emotions or thoughts or anything, that means you deal with it. Yes? So if emotions are not being dealt with, meaning they're just keep being ignored and they're being put on the back burner so that we don't have to deal with them, they won't go away. They will sit somewhere in your physical and non-physical system and eventually cause mental, emotional, and physical problems. Yes, sooner or later, in one way, shape, or form. And a lot of times, the mental problems may not even be seemingly connected to the emotional problems, yes? Or you may have physical problems where you do not even see a connection, but they stem from emotional or mental issues, yes? So it's a whole package that we need to look at, and that needs to be dealt with and properly taken care of, because our body, the physical body, the vessel, is like a car. This is like a ecosystem, and if we do not take care of the whole package, the whole system, yes, then the whole package, the whole system will eventually start having issues mentally, emotionally, physically, yes. So it's let's say it's, if you compare it to a car, if you take care of your car and you clean it nicely, but you do not take care of the wheels, eventually you will have a flat tire, or you will, you know, the tire is run down, and and if it's not being replaced, it will be a flat tire eventually. Yeah, so if you do not take care of your whole vehicle, your whole body, your whole system, meaning emotionally, mentally, physically, then that will cause issues further down the road that may not immediately be connected. The biggest issue these days is that people ignore and then do not make the connection to the issues that are popping up in their, let's say, life, yes? And they do not make the connection, they cannot follow and connect the dots where this is coming from, and then they have the hardest time dealing with these issues because they stem from other issues that have not been dealt with, yeah? So emotions that are not being processed properly, meaning they're not being dealt with, can cause issues mentally and physically, and of course emotionally, to the point where the whole system, the whole body breaks down and cannot function properly anymore. Meaning, and I'm not talking about functioning in society, because this is that depends on your point of view, whether you find you're functioning in society or not. I'm talking about functioning for you, being healthy. I'm talking about being in homeostasis and being healthy, yes? And if there are emotional issues, mental issues, physical issues, and all of this is connected, it's always connected in one way, shape, or form. And if it's not being addressed, then the whole system will slow down and slowly break down, okay? So in order to have a balanced emotional, mental, and physical system, health, yes, it's important to know how to deal with emotions. And unfortunately, in these days, we are not being taught that, because everything is geared towards the mental, but not necessarily mental health, but more mental processing. Everybody wants to get faster and smarter, to make more money, to be fitting into the system, yes? But for our physical body ecosystem, that brings a lot of issues, because from early on we are not taught properly how to deal with emotions. Yes. So there are many body minds that have emotions on the back burner that have not been acknowledged, that have not been looked at, that have not been dealt with, and that then cause issues. One thing I meant to mention on the side note, people who have issues with their sexuality and repressed emotional issues there can also turn violent. They may have had a traumatic experience, which then turns them violent because they haven't been able to process and deal with that, and so on and so forth. Yes. So there are a lot of different reasons for people to have emotional distress and emotional issues and repressed emotions that they are not capable of dealing with. But the solution to all of this is to look at it and process it and deal with it, as painful as that may be, and then that can discharge it in a safe way. Yes? Now, for people that have anger and frustration, a good way to discharge emotions safely is screaming, yelling. Yes, even cursing. Yeah, you may not agree with this and you may not like it, but that could be an emotional release for some people that otherwise may not happen. Yes, every body, mind is different and has different needs, different emotions, different memories, different thoughts. And so everybody mind is on a different level, different perceived journey, and needs different solutions. There is not one solution fits all. Yes? So for some body minds, it may be very helpful to just scream. And that doesn't mean you go ahead and just scream at people. That's not what this is saying, but you can go somewhere out in the woods and just scream on top of your lungs until you feel better, and it will make you feel better. Yes, because that can trigger the release of repressed emotions. Yes, so yelling, screaming, not at other body minds, not at animals, but just out there, or yell and scream in a pillow if you feel like it, if you do not have access to a spot in nature where you feel safe to yell and scream. Scream in a pillow. Yes, that would be a safe release of emotions, a safe discharge of emotions. Another safe discharge of emotions is crying. Our tears are discharged. The physical appearance of tears is a discharge, a release of emotions, whether that is happy emotions and happy tears, or sad emotions and sad tears, or angry emotions and angry tears. It doesn't matter. Tears in general are a discharge of emotions, and that is a safe way. So if you feel you need to cry, go ahead and cry, and don't let anybody tell you you shouldn't be crying, because that is nonsense. Yes, I hear this so many times still, that people telling their kids, oh, don't cry, we don't cry. Crying is one of the safest ways to discharge emotions on the spot, especially when something happens right then and there. You get hurt, you cry. That discharges the emotions so that you do not carry that trauma of the pain and the injury and the hurt with you for years and years and years and years. Yes? That's why children cry. Children are much more in tune with their own body and ecosystem than we adults, because children are not as brainwashed yet. Yes, their mind has not been polluted with all the mis and disinformation and all the illusions that are going on the perceived external world. Yes, even though this is all part of the gameplay that we're putting on, that consciousness is putting on. But we still hear, and we still have to deal with it in a safe way. Yes? So tears are a very effective way to discharge emotions, to release emotions. So with tears, and that's why emotions are connected to water, because tears are liquid water in that sense. So any water activity can help you release and discharge emotions in a safe way. That could be swimming, that could be surfing. That's why when you meet someone who spends a lot of time in the water, whether it's a swimmer or a surfer, these people are usually very relaxed, down to earth, very chill, because they are in charge of their emotions and their mental health. I'm not saying every body mind out there, but a lot of people who deal with water, who are in water a lot, whether that is fishermen or people who boat, people who surf, people who swim a lot, they are usually emotionally fairly well balanced, because water helps you discharge emotions in a safe way. Yes. Anything that is creative will also help you discharge emotions in a safe way. Meaning anything arts and crafts related, cooking, gardening can be helpful, anything to do with nature, anything to do with projects that you enjoy, could be singing, could be playing an instrument. You will find that sometimes you may hear a song or sing a song and you suddenly have tears in your eyes because it triggers an emotional release. Yes, and that's nothing to be worried about or ashamed about. It is some emotion that you may not even be aware of, but that finds a release through that song or through that movie maybe. Yes. People that cry during movies usually have repressed emotions that are then being triggered watching a certain movie scene, and then they can release that emotion. Yes, that is also a good way. That doesn't mean sit there and watch movies all day long. That's not what this is saying. Yes. But if you like to play instruments or if you like to sing, that's a good way to discharge emotions also. Anything you can do with your hands, like I said, arts and crafts, anything that constitutes your enjoyment. So any hobby that you enjoy can help you safely discharge and release emotions, pent-up emotions, stuck emotions, whatever you want to label it. Yes. Sports, any way, shape or form of physical activity. I don't want to call it sports because it's not watching sports on the TV. Emotional release is like a form of energy clearing, because emotion is energy. Yes. And it's a form of energy clearing. And any physical activity can help you release emotions in a safe way. So that is any physical activity you're doing, not you're watching someone doing a physical activity. That's not what this is talking about. But if you do sports, or if you just go for walks, nature walks, riding bike, swimming, especially because it's in water, I mentioned that already. Yoga. There are yoga poses. If you enjoy yoga, there are yoga poses that help release emotions. I practice Qigong Tai Chi. There are poses and movements that help with repressed emotions and releasing emotions. Martial arts. I practice martial arts, and there are certain moves that look, from if you're watching it, look violent, but they help release pent-up emotions. So that's a good way of dealing with it. If you feel like you need to physically release emotions, that there is no other way. So instead of going and destroying something, or hitting something, or hitting somebody, hitting another body mind, you can hit a pillow. Or even better, find a spot where you can just hit a punching bag. Join a gym or join a dojo or what, but don't join because you have anger issues and you want to kick and hit people. That's not what this is saying. Yes, this is not saying be violent against another body mind. This is saying you need to find a way how to effectively deal, process and discharge, release your emotions. Yes, and if that needs to be physical, it could be running, it could be swimming, it could be bike riding, anything that exerts and exhausts the physical body will help release emotions. Yes, if you are very angry, if you are very stressed, that can help. Again, martial arts, I have seen a lot of people who have benefited from martial arts who had anger issues, and who found that martial arts gives them the peace to control their own mental and emotional state. Yes. So boxing, yes, anything that is physical, and I'm talking about boxing as a punching bag, not beating the crap out of another body mind, okay? Just to make this very clear. Yes. A safe release means you're not hurting anybody else. People who have anger issues hurt other people because they do not know how to properly release and discharge their emotions, so they turn violent. Yes. But that can be dealt with by giving them another output, especially when you deal with younger kids who bite, who kick, who hit, who pinch. If you give them another physical output, as in sports, for instance, yes, to release, yes, that will help with biting, kicking, and temper tantrums, all of this, yes. Because a lot of times children are not equipped yet to verbalize their emotional distress, their emotional pain, their feelings. They have a whole lot of feelings going on just like an adult, but they cannot verbalize it and they cannot process it properly. So they turn to sometimes being mean or kicking, hitting. If a child displays that kind of behavior, then it needs help to safely release those emotions. And that can be very well sports, yes. That can also be occupational therapy. For adults, the same, yes. Another good way of dealing with emotions is journaling, and there are a lot of informational videos and articles out there online. So I am not going into too much detail about how to journal and when to journal and what to journal, but journaling in general brings up issues that we normally like to put on the back burner, that we try to ignore or prefer not to look at. That can come through with journaling. And then while we're writing, while we're journaling, we're dealing with these issues in a safe and healthy way. Hello? My hawks are upset because all the trees, or a lot of the trees that used to be here in the neighborhood, were taken down to build new houses. And so their territory has been compromised. So now they are not very happy. One of the trees that was taken down was a tree that they used to breed in every year. We have two hawk couples that have been breeding in here for years, and that tree was taken down. So yeah, they're upset. Yeah, so journaling is a good way to deal with repressed emotions, to discharge emotions. And if you're journaling and you feel that you feel the need to cry, then that is the release of the emotions that you have been holding on to. Okay, so again, I'm not going into detail about journaling because there's a lot of information out there. I just wanted to have mentioned it because it's a very useful tool. Journaling or diary keeping or whatever you want to call it, okay? And you don't have to keep what you're journaling. I know some people like to keep it like in the form of a diary or something, but you can literally journal every day or how often ever you feel necessary, and you can then throw it away. You can rip it up or burn it or throw it in the fireplace or whatever you want to do with it, yes? You do not have to keep everything you journal. But journaling, the process of journaling itself is a good way of dealing with emotions, emotional and with mental health issues, okay? So another very beneficial way to deal with repressed emotions is nature. because nature is always accessible for the most part. Even if you just have some small house plants, if you do not have nature around you accessible in the immediate surrounding, let's say, but you can still have some house plants. Nature can be very soothing for the nervous system, very helpful, very beneficial in any way, shape or form. Pets, animals are very beneficial when you have emotional issues. You can talk to your plants, you can talk to your pets, and that in itself, whether you feel the plant is listening or not doesn't matter, but the talking to something, yes, in itself can be very beneficial when you have emotional repressed issues. Yes, let's call it that. Another thing that I wanted to mention, since a lot of people, body minds, like to share their emotions with other body minds. Here's a little word of caution, because not every other body mind is capable of holding space. So when we share our emotional and mental details, let's call it that, then we need to be very careful when, where, and with whom we're sharing it, because not every other body mind can hold that space and is capable of being beneficial. Yes, we don't want to end up sharing our emotional mess, let's call it that, with somebody, and then that somebody has to carry the burden of our emotional mess, and now we're feeling a little better because we actually, you know, got it off our chest and we talked to somebody about it. But now this person is feeling like crap because we put our emotional mess on them, and we still haven't really properly dealt with it. We just talked about it, and then it makes us feel better in a moment, but it's really talking about it with somebody else can be helpful in a form of therapy if the issue is looked at. If we're only yapping off somebody's ear just to make us feel better, that is not emotionally beneficial. Okay, that may then traumatize the other body mind and cause more emotional issues there. So if you're sharing emotional mental issues, then be aware that this should be only done if it benefits both body minds involved, and not just for your own benefit so that you can feel better in that moment, but you still haven't looked at the whole issue. Okay, now if you're talking friend to friend, let's say, or family member to family member, and you can talk this through and work this through, and then it gets basically looked at, acknowledged, dealt with, and released, that's a different matter. Yes, that is very beneficial. But if you're just sitting here and yapping off somebody's ear just for the sake of getting it out, yeah, that's not really beneficial neither to you nor to the other body mind involved. Okay, so be very careful where, when, and with whom you are sharing your emotional problems, issues. Yes, let's call it that, because you do not want to cause issues or problems for another body mind just because you are not capable and able to deal with your own. Okay, another method that can be used to help clear repressed emotions is any way, shape or form of energy clearing, because as I mentioned before, emotions are energy too. And so when you do energy clearings, that can help bring up repressed emotions and can help process and clear and release in a safe way if you allow for that emotion to be acknowledged and looked at and felt. Yes, So usually if we have emotional issues that have been stuck in our, let's call it, system for a while, it's not enough to just light some incense and wave it in front of our face. That's not gonna deal with your emotional issues. Okay, we're here to deal with it ourselves. Yes, it can help and it can trigger the release, just like if you read a book or watch a movie or listen to a song that may trigger an emotional release. And as long as you allow that, it can then be safely discharged. Yes, but it needs to be allowed too. So it really comes down to, are you aware of what you're doing, or is your emotional health completely out of whack because you have no clue what's going on with your own body and in your own field? Yes, so it takes a level of awareness to work with your whole vessel. This is what gets you through this physical reality, and you want to keep it as healthy as possible. Again, it's emotional, mental, and physical. It all connects together. Yes, if you have health issues, physical health issues, they usually have their roots in either emotional or mental health. Yes, so that it all needs to be looked at in one thing and dealt with, not just dealing with this and ignoring the rest. The root really has to be looked at and dealt with, okay? But in general, any way, shape or form of energy clearing will also help process and clear some emotions, as long as you allow it. Yes, as long as you allow it. But that goes for anything. If you don't allow it, if you feel like crying and you're repressing it and you're saying, oh no, I cannot cry and what will people think and la 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 la, that's not beneficial. That's not helping. That's just repressing the emotion. That was just trying to come up. Yes, that was trying to get acknowledged. That was trying to get looked at so that you can then process and release it. Yes, emotions are really not there for us to hold on to. Neither the sad, nor the bad, or bad or traumatic, nor the good emotions. Yes. And if you notice happy emotions, we usually acknowledge right away. And then they move through the body and they move on. They are being discharged and released. Yes, whether you like it or not. Happy emotions usually don't stay long, because we acknowledge them and then they are on their way. They're being discharged and released. What we're hanging on to is the stuff we don't want to look at, we don't want to deal with. Yes, and that's then what causes issues. A good way to deal with emotions if you need help is called somatic therapy. And it, in short, gives you the ability to release and discharge emotions in a safe way. It can be done through dancing, through body tapping, through all kinds of forms. Somatic therapy is not just one thing, yes? It's a form of emotional discharge, emotional release in a safe way. It can be screaming, yelling, jumping, running, yes? There are so many forms of how that can be dealt with. And if you look up somatic therapy, there is a lot of information out there, as videos, as articles, yes, whatever way, shape or form you prefer in getting your information, there is a lot of information out there. Somatic therapy. That can be very beneficial because it basically encompasses the elements that I have been mentioning in this video. And if you do not know how to get this started for yourself, then a somatic therapist might be a good option for you, because they may be able to help you get started with your own, because nobody can do it for you. No matter which therapist you're talking to or looking at or whatever, nobody can do this for you. It has to come from within, and it has to come from you. Yes? There can be pointers, there can be hinters, there can be tips, there can be suggestions, but it still has to come from you. You have to work through it. Yes? And that's, I think, the key point that a lot of people miss. They think they go in therapy and that will fix everything. No, it doesn't. It still has to come from you. You still have to work through this. Yes? And yes, we're not our emotions. We're not. But hey, they're still here. Guess what? You're still in the physical body. Otherwise, we wouldn't even be talking about this, because then it wouldn't be an issue. And if you have an issue, and if you're here and watching this, you may have emotional repression and the need for help. Yes? Then you need to deal with it. Yeah? It's not helping to say, I am not my body, I'm not my emotions, I'm not my thoughts. No, you're not. You're not. You're so much more than that. You're all and everything and nothing at the same time. Yes? But you're still in the physical body, and you still have to deal with it. Yes? You cannot neglect your body, you cannot neglect your mental state, and you cannot neglect your emotions. Whether that is, whether you believe that's you or not, it doesn't matter. You still have to deal with it while you're in the physical. That's the whole reason why we're here in the physical. So we learn to deal with stuff like this. Okay? Experience stuff like this that we don't experience when we're not in the physical. I hope that makes sense. I think that should be a given anyway. So somatic therapy, very, very beneficial. And if you feel that might be for you, then get some more information. There is plenty of information out there, and there are more and more somatic therapists out there that can work with you. Okay? Another thing I wanted to mention is body tapping. Body tapping is very beneficial as a form of energy clearing and getting your body regulated and into homeostasis. And body tapping, crossing over energies, can also help with emotional release. Yes, this is the thymus gland. And this can tapping here. This is basically where your breastbone is. The thymus gland tapping here can help enormously with frustration, anger, anxiety, stress, depression this year. And I'm not saying this is the all solution. That's not what I'm saying. But this helps regulate, the thymus gland helps regulate your nervous system. The thyroid is sitting here. Your thyroid also helps regulate your nervous system. And slightly tapping here can also help. A lot of people will, especially if they have thyroid issues, will find this uncomfortable. So for body minds who find this here uncomfortable, yes, then this here is probably more comfortable. You can do lymph drainage. Lymph is underneath the skin, lymph fluids. And lymph fluids help detox the body, and they also help regulate our hormones, which then influence the emotional state. And they also help with our overall health, our immune system. So there are ways of doing your own lymph drainage massage, whatever you want to call it. There are videos out there, so I am not going into detail here either. Yes, I just wanted to mention it. It's called a lymph massage or lymph drainage massage, and you can do it yourself if you have the knowledge about it. Again, there is articles out there, and there is videos out there on how to do this. And that is very beneficial because it also helps soothe the nervous system and the thyroid. With the thyroid, if you have an overactive or underactive thyroid, you have most likely emotional and mental issues. Yes, and I'm not saying this to be mean. That's where the thyroid issues come from. Repressed emotional and mental issues. Okay, so that is very beneficial, and that can help. Body tapping can be any body part. You can tap down your whole body. You can either use a light fist or you can use your flat hand. I would do a slap tap, not just with the fingertips. That's not very beneficial. There are a lot of videos out there. Body tapping is a very old method. It's done in Qigong and in Tai Chi and I believe in yoga too. Very beneficial for your overall health, for your immune system, and it recalibrates your nervous system. And your nervous system then has to do with your emotional and your mental health. Yes? So that is also very beneficial. Body tapping, there are whole videos out there on how to do body tapping. Okay? Very beneficial. Another thing I wanted to mention, which is often overlooked, is the chiropractor. A chiropractor does not straighten your bones like many body minds believe. A chiropractor will adjust your joints. And your joints is where a lot of energy gets stuck when the joints are misaligned. And they can align your vertebrae, they can align your spine, they can align your hips, they can align your joints. Yes? So, and if your joints are not in alignment, if your joints are off kilter, let's say, then your energy cannot flow and process properly and cannot discharge properly either. Yes? And the word chiropractor, we say chiropractor, but if you spell it chiropractor, yeah, chi, because chi is spelled C-H-I, it's the Chinese word for life force or energy, chi. Yes? The English spelling for it. It means life force or energy, and the chiropractor does exactly that. Adjusts your joints so that your energy, your life force can flow in a healthy way. Yes? So when you have issues, mental, emotional, it helps to visit a chiropractor because they can determine whether your body is off kilter. And again, it's all connected, physically, mentally, emotionally. And if you're physically off, if you're physically not in alignment and the energy cannot flow properly, yes, that can also cause mental and emotional issues. Yes. So a chiropractor can help you align your joints so that your life force, your energy can flow properly. Okay, that's very important, and a lot of people really don't know what a chiropractor does. A chiropractor gets your energy flowing properly because they adjust your joints and put them back to where they need to be. So it's not just for your physical health, it's also for your mental health and your emotional health. Okay? Safe emotional release, safe emotional discharge. Okay? So that then helps balance out emotional health. And again, that is connected to physical and mental health. I did Reiki for emotional health and stuff before, so you can look back at the older Reikis too. That is all very beneficial. I also did I also did several Reiki for the sacral chakra, which is connected to emotions. The sacral chakra and the solar plexus are both connected to emotional health. Okay, so any Reiki that is for the solar plexus and the sacral chakra is also even the root chakra, because fear is an emotion that is based in the root chakra, and that is also an emotion. So the heart chakra, but the main chakras for emotional health are really the sacral chakra and the solar plexus. Okay, and our breath, which is the closest way we can see our energy, our chi, our prana, whatever you want to call it. Yes, our soul, our spirit, if you so want. Yes, our breath that goes in and out the physical body will physically help us process, clear, and release emotional, whatever is necessary. There is a lot of repressed emotions in what we would consider the collective, because a lot of us have not been taught to deal with it. But that doesn't mean you cannot learn it by yourself, okay? Because you really have access to everything. Question is, are you accessing all that knowledge? Yes, you have access to the same knowledge I do. Are you accessing that? Yes, because again, we're not our emotions, we're not our body, we're not our la 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 la, we're not. We are so much more than that. We are everything and nothing at the same time. But as long as you're in the physical body, you still have to deal with it. Yes. And you have to find a safe way to deal with it, unless you want to end up with all kinds of health issues, mental issues, emotional issues, broken relationships. Yes. All this needs to be dealt with, okay, in a safe way. This is also a form of cord cutting, because it releases stuff that our mind is hanging on to that's really not serving us anymore. Stories, beliefs, memories are stories that the mind hangs on to. Yes. Stories that are often not what actually happened. They are distorted. They are sometimes illusionary. Yes. And again, I have previous videos about emotional health, and I have videos about how to release attachments, cord cutting, which comes from the mind, the memories we hold in the mind. I have a video about the illusions of the mind. I have all kinds of previous videos, and they're all interwoven and interconnected. And I find they are valuable, how to navigate this physical, what we perceive as world, this physical reality that we're all in. Yes, so if you have any questions, you are welcome to look at my previous videos, okay? So, in conclusion, our emotional health affects our mental health and our physical health, and vice versa. Our mental health affects our emotional health and our physical health, and vice versa. Yes? So we need to take care of the whole package in order to be healthy, what we would consider healthy. Yes? Happiness comes from within, and happiness comes and is attainable at any given moment. You don't have to necessarily be healthy for that. Yes? But a healthy body, mind, where your emotional, mental, and physical state is well balanced and what we would consider healthy, yes, is easier to navigate in this, what we call the world, the physical reality, yes. And it is easier to have relationships with friends, co-workers, family, whatever. Yes, it is much easier to deal with perceived other body minds out there when your own body is healthy and is balanced emotionally, mentally, and physically. Yes. So this is very important, because however our output is into that, what we perceive as physical world, it will reflect back to us. And if our, let's say, energetic output is chaos, because we have chaos within and our emotions are in chaos and our mental state is in chaos and so on and so forth, then we're basically putting chaos out there, and it will reflect back to us. And then it's like, oh my gosh, what's going on in this world? Yes, not realizing that we're the ones who are creating this for us, not realizing that we are manifesting this because we are neglecting ourselves and our own mental, emotional, and physical state. Yes, so I think this is it's very important to look at the whole package, to deal with the whole package. And that also includes energetic clearings, because everything is energy. Our thoughts are energy. This physical body is energy. It's just more dense energy, yeah, condensed energy. It's still energy. Everything is energy, because there's nothing but energy. We are energy. Yes, consciousness is energy. So if you want to be able to live a healthy, happy life and be able to live a fulfilled life, that's what usually body minds aspire to, then you need to take care of your own shite, because that's what it comes down to. It starts with us. It starts here. It starts within. Yes, you can see doctors, you can see shrinks, you can see whoever. Yes, it starts with you. It starts within. And it helps to learn and know how to take care of your own shit. Yeah? Because that also will give you the compassion to then look at other body minds who may be having issues and have the compassion to hold space for them, because you know where they're coming from, because you know what they're dealing with. And you may even know how to help them, to point them in the right direction. They can only help themselves. Yes? You cannot really help them other than give them ideas. But it still has to come from within them. Yes? But it gives you the compassion and the acceptance of what they're going through, and the ability to hold space for whatever you perceive to be going on out there. Yes, because once you're fairly well balanced emotionally, mentally, and physically, yes, then you have the ability and capability to hold space for other body minds, which you don't have if your emotional state is in chaos, if your mental state is in chaos. Yes, then it's very difficult to hold space for others, because you cannot even deal with your own shite. Yes. So I hope this video brought some more in-depth information. If you have any questions that has not been discussed here, please feel free to leave a comment, leave a message, and I will get back with you. You're welcome to join my community on Patreon, where we can discuss things more in private than on, let's say, public boards, public community boards, because Patreon is a private community. So you're welcome to join there. And other than that, I hope that this will be beneficial in any way, shape, or form, because this body mind obviously feels the need to be making these kinds of videos. That's all I can say to this. So thank you for taking the time to be present here. Thank you for your support for these videos, so I can get my messages out, or information, or whatever you want to call it, so I can get my energies out. I hope that your emotional, mental, and physical health will prosper, so that you can enjoy this life here in the physical reality. Okay? The light in me recognizes that same light in you, for we are all one, one consciousness, one light. I see you, I appreciate you, I honor you. So much love and blessings.